Hi friends, good evening. Hope all of you are doing well and safe. My name is Dhruv Chhawchhria and I am a core team member of Vision CA, and here we are again with another Vision CA career talks, and we have none other than our Priyal Keni. Telling something about Priyal Keni. Priyal is a chartered accountant by profession. She has been uh, a McKinsey Next Generation Woman Leader, a two-time TEDx speaker, a CFA level 2 candidate, and an international rifle shooter, and a GGI scholar. And she is right now working with a top consulting firm. Let me take a very deep breath after such a long introduction. Thanks, Priyal, for joining the call.
Thank you so much for inviting me over, and I really look forward to the amazing interactive session we're going to have for the next 30 minutes.
Yes. Starting with our talk, Priyal, can you talk something about your school, your formative years, your college, and then why did you choose CA?
So I went to Bombay Scottish School. It was really 5 minutes from home, and for the convenience purpose, my parents enrolled me there because they didn't want me to travel too far, and they always felt that. So basically, as easy as I may put it, they always took care that I am at the slightest of inconvenience, so they made sure I don't travel too far, and everything, be it my coaching classes, be the dance classes I used to go to, the singing classes I go to, were literally a stone's throw away. But everything radically changed when I got into shooting, and in no time, the sport gained a lot of momentum in my life. And from playing for my school, I went on to play for my city, district, and then things changed when I had to play for the state at the national level competitions. And after that, I even went on to play for India. And suddenly, this little bubble that I was living in, where the only things that mattered to me were the school I went to, the 4-5 friends I had over there, it all just changed overnight. And I was traveling twice or thrice a month to different cities to compete in matches. And I was like thrown out of my bubble, thrown out of my comfort zone into this completely different world where there was like so many competitions before me, so many opportunities before me. So that was, I think, the transformative moment in my life. Of course, shooting is something that started in school, but I carried it on even into college. For college, I went to Podar College, which is one of the best colleges in the University of Mumbai. Kept up with shooting, and at the same time, when I was in my 12th grade, that was actually a very pivotal year in my life because at an international level, I had finished 5th in the 10-meter air rifle event, and at the same time, I was also one of the toppers at the state board examinations. So that time I realized one thing, that no matter how passionate I am about shooting, I would not ever pursue it at the cost of any of my academic aspirations. So I decided to pursue the chartered accountancy course, but keeping in mind the rigor of the entire commitment that was involved with being a part of the Indian team, where you are constantly traveling out of the country, attending training programs, I realized that I will not be able to do justice to the CA course. So decided to kind of postpone or forego with, giving my IPCC and taking off with the course to after my graduation. So I think in my final year of graduation, in fact, just after my board examinations, I appeared for my IPCC. And after that, I started with the articleship. And then CA final happened in 2019, and here I am.
Right. So a key insight to everyone, Priyal had the option of doing CA along with her graduation, but she chose the later part. It was by choice, right, Priyal?
Yeah, it was totally by choice. Because I just felt that focusing on my graduation and shooting at that point of the time was a need of the hour. And of course, there was a lot of peer pressure involved then, because I knew that probably when I would be taking the IPCC, most of my friends back in college would already be at the fag end of their chartered accountancy course. And I would probably be 2 years behind. And again, see a final, like leaving aside the CPT and the IPCC and the articleship part of it, is a task in itself. It's a calculated risk because a lot of people even told me, what if you ultimately start appearing for your CA final and realize it's not working out for you? It'll be too late at that point of time in your career. But it was a decision I took by choice. In fact, it was a very conscious decision because I felt that with so many things already on my plate, I wouldn't be able to focus on the CA course. I wouldn't be able to do justice to the articleship, which is a very crucial phase of the life of a CA student. And though I wanted to do it all, I wanted to stick to adopting a focused approach. So I decided that while I'm at graduation, I'll decide to keep my focus on my graduation studies and my shooting. And once articleship starts off, chartered accountancy is going to be my sole and only focus.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, and I echo with that idea that you write your own journey, you make your own journey, and it need not be something which people have been doing it in the past. So kudos for that. Moving ahead, you joined CA after graduation as a direct entry student. So any specific advice for the audience who are pursuing CA from direct entry route specifically?
So I didn't really take the direct entry route, but yes, I gave my IPCC in my last year of graduation. But I think one message that I would like to really give out to all the students is take your decision depending on your timelines or what you want to do. Don't get influenced just because the rest of your batch is giving IPCC in the first or second year. That doesn't mean you have to do it too. If you are not too sure whether chartered accountancy is a course you want to pursue, you're not too sure whether you'll really be able to give that kind of commitment, giving in mind the entire rigor of the BCom and the graduation courses that we pursue, or if you're already pursuing any other professional course by the side, take a very wise decision, because it's one thing to succumb to peer pressure, and then there's even another thing to take too much on your plate and get burdened by the pressure of it and not being able to do justice to everything. So I gave my IPCC when I was in my last year of grad. Again, it was a very conscious decision at that point of time to focus on one group at a time. So I took one group first. I took the first group first, and then I started with the second group, and then I started with my articleship. Of course, CA final, I cleared both my groups in the same attempt. So that's what I'm saying, that, I took my course, I decided my own pace, I decided my own timeline, and in nowhere did it ultimately affect my career, or whether I came out more qualified or less qualified in comparison to other chartered accountants. So you take your decisions with respect to your CA journey or your career, and make sure they're very personal to you. Probably you can discuss them with your mentor or any senior from college you look up to, or your parents, but don't just follow the herd. That's all I would like to say.
Absolutely. So that's a nice thought. And moving ahead, then how would you describe your articleship journey? Like how it had been full of roller coasters?
Yeah, there were a lot of roller coasters involved in it. First of all, I had that big question in my mind whether I want to go for a big four or just go for a small firm. And after a lot of thinking, I felt that at that point of time, I would go for a small firm, because I really wanted to explore different areas rather than, and moreover, I wasn't too sure where I was actually seeing myself even at a big four. And again, probably one thing I would go back and not perceive or be very presumptuous about is, Big Four is too rigorous, or whether I would be able to keep up with the pressure of working in such an organization. So I felt probably I should start small and then climb up the ladder, rather than, literally throwing myself under the bus and seeing whether I survive or not. So I started off with a small firm, made the most of my time over there. In a way that also gave me the flexibility to stay in touch with the state and the national level matches that used to happen, because I had stepped down from the Indian shooting team. So my travel was really cut from probably 100 to 10 or 20. But I used to play the states that used to happen once a year. I used to play nationals that used to have once a year. So I got that kind of flexibility there, because I used to put in my leave well in advance, take probably a week's off to go and play at the state and national level competitions. And that used to give me some breather to not only keep up with my CA course, and at the same time ensure that I'm in touch with shooting also. So these are a few pros and cons that come with working with a small firm or working with a big four. I would just say, do your calculations and see where you see yourself. And one thing I would definitely be is, don't probably think like me that you won't be able to take the rigor of probably working at a big four, which is something I was really presumptuous about. Now that I work in a much larger organizational environment, I think these are just things you come by, and you should never discount yourself or your potential with respect to it.
Right. So two key insights. First of all, take your call. What suits you, whether to join a big four or a mid-size, or whatever suits you that time. Not fell into the mental hurt thing, and also just stay with it. Yes, moving ahead. So after getting qualified, you worked as a consultant with a mid-sized firm. So how was your experience there?
So it was a great experience. Like I told you, I wanted to like slowly and slowly climb up the ladder. So for me, it was just about transitioning from a small environment to a little larger environment. And I was taking things as it come, got to explore my hands on a few new areas or domains, a little bigger projects than what I was looking at. And it was a great learning experience. And at the same time, because it was a larger environment, got to interact with a lot of more people. And by the time, because CA was over and like, I had that big burden off my mind that now I don't have to study now. The only thing on my mind was that, what next? Where do I see myself next? I'd already zeroed down on 3-4 options that I was looking at as definitive career domains that I want to pursue in the longer run or in the long term. And at that point of time, working in a mid-size gave me the chance to like not only learn new things, but speak to a lot of new people. And from there on, I realized that, okay, fine. Like now that it's gradually progressing from here, I can probably go ahead and look at something big. And that much needed confidence that was lacking in me really came in from there. So it was a great learning experience, and I had a great learning curve while I was there.
Okay. So currently you are working with a top consulting firm in the finance and digital transformation space. So can you speak a bit about your role and how your typical day at work life look like?
So I work in the consulting space, and I'm totally loving it because a lot of the work I do is traditionally very different than the accounting and taxation work I've done all this while. So a lot of new things to learn. It's fun. It's a client-facing role. A typical day in my life, there are some scheduled meetings, there are some impromptu meetings. Overall, my work really keeps me on my toes, which is something I really like. Get to learn a lot of new things, and I think that is very important for me. Wherever I am, I have to make sure that I'm learning something new, I'm growing as an individual, and I think I have a plethora of opportunities where I'm at right now to do that. So I'm absolutely loving every bit of it.
So friends, you understand that after achieving so many things and becoming such a great person, Priyal still has that mentality and thought process of being a persistent and consistent learner. So I think that's a very important takeaway which we all should take head. Right. I had come across a LinkedIn post which you had shared, and many might have also seen that. It was regarding the undermining of doing or pursuing sports at earlier childhood age for the fact that it might backfire your main academics. So from that perspective, sports has always been an integral part of your life. So how did you decide to pursue it professionally, and how did you, take those big steps, in spite of people telling that it might backfire your main academics, you still pursued it? So
I think if I have to look back and really pat myself or my younger self on my shoulder for something, it would be for really holding on to my dreams and what I wanted to do in spite of what others told me. And I think the only reason I'm very vocal about it, or I like sharing excerpts from my journey to, really highlight these aspects, because like me, I know there are a lot of people out there who at the same time are well aware of their responsibilities, their career aspirations, but even have little passions that they do not want to give up to, I want to stay in touch with. Like for me, it was shooting. It can be a lot of other things for a lot of people. Someone is passionate about some other sport. Someone's passionate about singing, dancing, trekking. There's a lot of things, and then that constant fear is there. And I've heard it from a lot of students I've interacted with who've always told me that if I take up CA, will I have to give up on my hobbies? Will I have to give up on my passion? And that is exactly what I want to tell the world, that you can be what you want to be. You can do what you want to do. Just because your relatives or someone else is trying to force an opinion on you that this is the definition of an ideal 20-year-old or a 22-year-old. This is what is expected of you, and if you are not adhering to that, you're not a fit in this society, then do not be that. Like you decide where you want to drive your life. Make sure you have the remote control for it, and like don't be presumptuous that I can't do both or I shouldn't be able to do both. There are points of times in my life, like I mentioned, where I've done the same and have only and only regretted it later. So I want to make sure that a few people, like most of the people out there, do not have the same regret as I had. Like do what you want to do. Don't let anybody else tell you what you can or cannot do. That's all I'm trying to imply here.
Right. I mean, to be honest, Priyal, you might share your view on this as well. Maybe this things what you pursued that time and hold back, and then you achieved so many things. It has actually helped you more to shape your own individuality, right?
Yeah, it has in a very great manner, because I have a better understanding of how much I can achieve, how far I can go, and the whole thing about holding on to what you want to do, what your dreams are, what your goals are, and putting yourself first. I mean, that entire realization has come through all the resistance I have received at a very early age, because I decided to take up shooting when I was in the ninth grade. When as a kid, like everybody just expects you to be studying, buried in your books, because the 10th grade is coming, 12th grade is coming, then the most crucial years of your life are coming, where academics should be the most important thing. At that point of time, I decided to put myself out there and dedicate probably half my time to shooting. And the kind of resistance that came in and how I combated that, and stuck to what I was doing, not getting digressed or affected by what other people are saying, really not only shape my individuality, but even today in a great way, really kind of shapes what I am, how I think, or what I do.
So we have talked about your professional journey, your sports journey, and now talking about the NGO space which you are involved in. So you have founded the Play and Shine Foundation. So can you tell something about the foundation? What does it do?
So Play and Shine is basically a foundation where we're trying to promote sports at a grassroots level. So when I was at the fag end of my chartered accountancy course, I wanted to go back in some way or the other to work in the social work space, because I was involved as a volunteer previously with a lot of NGOs when I was in school and college. So started looking out for potential opportunities now that I knew I would have that extra time in hand. And that's when a friend walked up to me and actually convinced me of, instead of working at another NGO, why don't you start something of your own? Because you have a great entrepreneurial drive, you have a great passion for social work, and at the same time, you're looking for avenues to kind of stay connected to the sports space. So that's how the idea of Play and Shine really came to my mind. And in fact, the person who told me is now my co-founder at the NGO. And we initially started off as a non-profit initiative, because I really didn't know how well people would resonate with the idea of a sports-based NGO, or what we're even trying to do here. Because generally in India, people look at sports as a source of leisure or entertainment. That there are these fan moments you have, and like fancy endorsements and everything. So like looking at sports in the context of social work, or looking at sport as a tool to achieve our SDGs, or to work for sustainability is something that is highly untouched upon. Across the globe, there are a lot of sport for sustainable development programs, but in India, that's still in a very primitive stage. It's gaining momentum now. It's coming in the limelight. But when we started back in 2018, it was really nothing much. So we started off as a non-profit initiative, really wanted to see how many people understand what we're trying to do. And in no time, we kind of realized that people are resonating well with the idea of what we're trying to do. They're aligning well with our vision. And that's when we realized that we want to give this a more serious approach. And then we went ahead, got ourselves registered as a proper charitable trust and NGO. And now we're working on a lot of projects with some great organizations, where we're trying to work with children from underprivileged sections of the society and introduce them to the world of sport. We're not necessarily looking at, making Olympians here, or making world-class athletes or world-level medalists. All we want to do is use sport as a tool to ensure a child's holistic development, because the kind of education that's given to them right now is so heavily focused on teaching them a subject like math or science, or teaching them English or something of that sort. You're not paying attention to the other aspects that are important for their overall development, like teaching them a language, teaching them a soft skill, or teaching them sport, because not all learning happens in the four walls of the classroom. And sports is a medium that really puts you out there on the field. You learn so much about team play, teamwork, how to deal with failures at an early stage, how talents matter, what equality is there. So sports culture is very enriching then. So we want the kids to learn these little important things that will matter to them in the long run, and at the same time also ensure that they inculcate these little habits in their daily lives, by which we can ensure their physical health and mental well-being. So that is largely what most of the projects at Play and Shine intend to do.
Absolutely, that's nice to hear about them, and I hope uh, people would be encouraged to do such kind of things to empower others to develop themselves from various perspectives. We talked about the NGO aspect. Now, I would like to know your experience at GGI. I have been a GGI delegate to myself and been learning the management communication masterclass. So, what do you think? Like after getting qualified, uh, CAs, do they need skills like problem solving, sustainable development, design thinking, those kind of skills? And what is your view on that?
Of course, I mean, GGI has a lot of master classes where we get to learn a lot of things that are probably highly untouched upon when we are pursuing our chartered accountancy course. Largely because the entire focus of the course is accounting, finance, auditing, and law, because it's a professional course, so it's bound to be heavy on the technicalities, which is expected of it, and the entire rigor of the course. Because at the end of the day, as a CA, you have to know how to tally a balance sheet. You need to know the laws, you need to know the different standards. So they are more heavily focused on that. But today, for the kind of corporate world we're looking at, or the kind of different career opportunities we're looking at, the importance of soft skills is really growing. So if the available opportunities to you, be it in your CA course or in your university that you're studying at or the college you're at, it doesn't really cater to these requirements of yours. You really need to start looking at resources outside, at opportunities outside, where you can learn all these skills, like design thinking skills, communication skills, problem solving skills, which are very, very important if you really want to, crack into these big companies, or land your dream job or something, because these companies look at an overall developed individual. They don't just look at your hard skills, but they place equal emphasis on the soft skills. And I think GGI is a place that really caters to all these requirements under one roof, under a very safe environment. You not only get to take a lot of master classes, you get the opportunity to directly interact with a lot of industry experts, and then they have case solving sessions. They have this internal closed community called Wiggly, where you can really network with a lot of like-minded individuals. So I think it's a great investment, not only in your career but in your overall personal development. So I mean, just like GGI, I would even suggest that if there are any other places where you can really be a part of, or like make the most out of your time there, you should really put in your time and effort there.
Yeah, so the important point here, friends, is to learn the skills and acquire them, and just not keep your growth stagnated after just getting qualified. That's the important point. And they say, right, if you do not learn, then you are you're not young enough, so you have to keep that in mind. So I mean, after hearing so many things you are pursuing and doing, I'm definitely sure all the audience, they might themselves be inclined and motivated to do multiple things at a time. So for that, would you throw some light, like how did you manage your work, now studies, you are a CFA level 2 candidate, your NGO, and all the other things you are associated with? So something for that.
So I think there are a lot of attributes that come into play, but I think the most important thing is discipline, because if you're disciplined, everything else almost falls in place, because your motivation can change from time to time. At some point of time, what may motivate you might not motivate you later on, or you might just achieve that one particular thing that you were looking for. Your goals change, your short-term goals change, long-term goals change, everything changes. But if you're disciplined, no matter what you have in your mind, or no matter what particular dream or ambition you're chasing, you stay committed to it. And that is something that's very important. When you're disciplined, you learn to prioritize your tasks, you learn to manage your time well, you just proactively become more organized. You start pushing yourself out of bed at 5 a.m. in the morning to utilize those little extra hours of the day where you can probably squeeze in an activity more, or look at something else. You start staying up late at night where you can actually try and tick off more tasks before you hit the bed. So I think discipline is a very crucial thing. A lot follows after that, and just plan your things well in advance. Like I really like planning my week in advance. In fact, instead of starting off with my week on a Monday morning, I prefer starting it off like on a Sunday evening, where I actually invest a lot of time in planning my week ahead, blocking my calendar well in advance, prioritizing my task, and also keeping some buffer time for myself. Because I think at the end of the day, having the realization or the understanding that you're a human being, there are times where your productivity will fluctuate. There are times where you will feel exhausted, and burnout is also very, very important. And you need to take out some time to kind of, reboot, rejuvenate, give time to yourself, and then probably come back stronger. So these are little aspects I would highly recommend you to keep in mind if you are someone who is a go-getter or is a multitasker.
Right. So friends, you should keep things like discipline, prioritizing things, planning these things in mind if you want to pursue multiple things and become like real. Coming to our last question, Priyal, most of our audience are CA finalists or young CAs. What advice would you like to give them based on your experiences?
So like I have emphasized, I would still continue to emphasize on that. Keep your CA journey highly personal to yourself. I have interacted with a lot of CA students, especially over the last 1 year, through a lot of interactive sessions. And I think one very common observation is we try and succumb to our peer pressure. Not even peer pressure, I would say we just try to follow the herd. Don't do that. You decide your own journey. It can be with respect to the IPCC attempt you want to take, with respect to whether you want to give one group or two groups, where you want to do your articleship, or even at a CA final, the kind of coaching you want to opt to. Don't opt for coaching just because your best friend or your group of friends is opting for coaching. Don't narrow down on a particular professor just because they are going to that professor. Don't read a particular book of an author just because everybody around you is reading it. Take your own decisions, especially when it comes to the elective subject for the new course. Invest a good amount of time in wisely choosing the elective subject. Just because some professor, some student said, or some friend of yours scored well in an elective subject, don't opt for it. You see what really suits you, because that one subject, if you really take the decision correctly, can really help you sail through an entire group. The second group, at least for me, was more rigorous than the first one, because it was really heavy on tax, which are two subjects very tough to score on. But because I took a wise decision with respect to my elective subject, even though I couldn't score great on the tax on both my tax papers, I cleared my second group with a good 35 marks margin, which was something very useful for me overall from the aggregate prospect. So I would suggest, like, invest a good amount of time in it, and don't do something just because other people are doing, because trust me, if that doesn't work out, that regret hits you really bad later on in life.
Right. Absolutely. It has been really nice, Priyal, to interact with you. You heard so many things about yourself, your journey, your experience, and really a big gratitude from entire Vision CA for becoming part of this podcast series. And we would be linking Priyal's LinkedIn handle in the comments. So if anyone has some doubts or wanted to know something about from Priyal, they can reach out to you. Priyal, that should be fine, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm always up for a good conversation. So feel free to ping me on LinkedIn. Generally, Monday to Fridays, my days are very intense. So I might not, even though if I end up checking my LinkedIn, I might not reply to all DMs, because I almost always have a dozen people DMing me. So weekends is when I definitely try and get back to everyone who's written to me during the week. So I will get back to your request. And anyway I can be of any help or advice or support to you, like, definitely happy to do that. So please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Priyal, for that. And all of you, thanks for listening patiently to both of us, and have a good day.
Thank you.